Is Jordan Poole an all-star? I think so. And Alex Sarr, should he be a finalist for the Rookie of the Year? It appears so. We'll talk about that and lots more next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Wizards Daily Newsletter, a one-stop shop for the ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com and start your day with all new free Locked On Wizards newsletter. It's your boy Brandon Scott again, and today I got special guest Stephen Powers, longtime diehard Bullets Wizards fan. He's probably been a Bullets Wizards fan before a lot of us were born, so definitely looking forward to talking tonight. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic because we're really thankful you're going to have me on the show tonight and talk some Wizards. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And like I said, I see you mess with your hair. You still look like you're around 25, 30 years old. So you're good to go, man. So,
thanks.
So we got a lot to talk about tonight. JP13, the All-Star game is right around the corner. So is he an All-Star? And should the NBA adopt the model of the Major League Baseball where every team gets a representative at the All-Star game? Alex Sarr, who after 5 summer league games, people were ready to call him a bust. He has shown the NBA world why he's ready to take that next step. And Brian Keefe, is he the key to the developmental puzzle? I think so. So like I said, a lot to talk about tonight, but we're going to start with the first thing, Jordan Poole. And, coming over from Golden State, a lot of us had high hopes from him, definitely had an up and down season last year, but he put the work in it all season. And he took that step not only from the player's, player perspective, but a leadership perspective. You see this guy very active with dealing with the young guys. First thing he did when Bilal got drafted, he was the first guy to talk to Bilal Coulibaly, and those two have really formed a relationship. So, in your eyes, right now, is Jordan Poole an all-star?
The way he's playing, certainly up there in the talk. I'm really happy. I look at Jordan Poole being here as an extension of the Wall Supermax into the Westbrook, into the Chris Paul, into the Jordan Poole dollars, along with Patrick Baldwin and a couple of picks. So the way the front office moved all that and brought Jordan here as younger, and more athletic. And so I think we're in a good place having him here. And I love seeing how Keefe's using him because he's certainly setting him up for success and putting him in the right way this year.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. Jordan Poole, very intriguing player because, a lot of talent coming over from Golden State. You best believe he learned a lot, playing behind Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. And I thought that, there was comparisons where a lot of people were comparing him to James Harden with his transition from Oklahoma City to Houston. And I felt that, that was a good comparison because, very up and down season last year. He started out slow, had his fair share of issues, but I think a lot of that had to do with him acclimating to his role here in DC. You go from a dynasty in Golden State to being the guy in DC, especially as a young player, you have to kind of find your footing, and took him a little bit, but I definitely think he found his place here in DC. Second half of the season, reverted to 6-man, he flourished. Tyus went down with an injury, he became a starting point guard, and he flourished, and he put the work in the offseason. And then, I say this all, okay.
Yeah, no question. Wes used him in a different role. Keefe's using him a different way. I think he's flourishing better the way Keefe's using him. I think that's, more handles that him using the ball, having the ball more, certainly helping his game. The All-Star vote is so weird now, with the fan vote, it's kind of a popularity contest. Yeah. Seeing him in 8th place, that doesn't surprise me. But as you look at some of the other guards that are getting a lot of votes, it is kind of surprising to see some of those, the ones that are getting them with it, Ball getting so many votes.
Yeah.
It's just really strange the way that works out,
No, I agree 100%. Looking at the All-Star game, it's a popularity contest. And I think that they need to take the Major League Baseball role, which is let every team have a representative. I think every team should have a representative in the All-Star game. And he's played at All-Star level. I think that the only knock against him is the team performance. Right now we're 6-29, but he has been the clear leader of this team, not only in the locker room, but on the court. I mean, these young guys feed off of him on the court. And like I said, you've seen leadership role with him where he's taking all these young guys under his wing. And him and Bilal have definitely formed a relationship. And, Bilal Coulibaly, I think that, we're going to talk about him in a minute, and we're going to talk about head coach Brian Keefe in a little bit. But his production, with him progressing in year 2, I think a lot of that has to do with not only Bilal putting that work in, but having a leader in Jordan Poole. And, Brian Keefe, his resume as a developmental head coach speaks for itself. And I think this is, it's time for Bilal Coulibaly to take that number 2 role. And I think that
Yeah, it is great, and even Jordan, we watch him, because we go to the games live, me and some other season ticket holders, and we watch him on the bench right now when he's in street clothes. He is active, he's engaged, he's talking to all the players, in the timeouts, he's telling people what's going on. Like you said, he is embracing that leadership role. We're lucky to have him here, especially at this time through he's got the right attitude with all this losing and to get us through this deconstruction phase that's going on.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. He is definitely bought in. And like I said, I think he is definitely a long-term piece here in the nation's capital. I think you got a player who at age 25 hasn't hit his prime yet, but is already playing at an all-star level. And, when you look at it from the perspective of having leadership, we have short-term leadership guys here for at least the next 2 to 3 years in Young's Valanciunas, who's done well, mentoring Alex Sarr. And Malcolm Brogdon, who's come in and he's really worked with a lot of the point guards. But I think if you're looking at a long-term leader and a guy to be the leader of the locker room, you have it in Jordan Poole. He's proved that. He's put the work in, and I think you have to take that in consideration for his long-term fit, because all you can ask for is to get better in the offseason.
It'd be really interesting to see what they do with Poole in 2 years when his contract's up. Like you said, Brogdon and Holmes and Bagley, they've got those big salaries that they don't seem tied to those players. That with the trade deadline coming up, that some of those guys may be up. I hear some scuttlebutt that even Poole might be on the trade block because his value is so high. If somebody's ready to take on that salary, I'd hate to see that right now, because I think he's the right guy to help with this transitional period.
No, I agree, but then I'm not surprised either, because with more success, teams are going to come calling, and he definitely has value now. Teams see that he is taking that next step, not only as a leader but as a player. I mean, he's playing at an all-star level. So I think that, because there's a lot of Jordan Poole fans and a lot of them concerned that there's in trade talk, but I told a lot of them, I said, look, that's a testament to your player. I mean, for teams, they want his services. They want Jordan Poole. He shows value. So that is a plus for him, because he went through so much last year. And for him to build that value up, to put the work in and really, remake his image, because, a lot of people were low on him last year. And
hard around them, not only in DC, but around the league and in the nation. You really saw some bad things coming out. There's some Golden State fans that are pro and anti-Jordan. So you do see a lot of that talk about him. So it's great to see him really putting out these 25, 30-point games with and getting his turnovers down a little bit. So, I couldn't be happier for him. Really good guy. He walked by me where my seat was. I sit by the tunnel, and I didn't see him, and I felt someone squeezing my calf, and I looked down. It was Jordan Poole. He looked up at me. He said, "How you doing, man?" I'm like, "Hey, man, how are you?" So that's just the kind of guy he is. Very interactive, and he embraces everything. It's really nice to see.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the pleasures of being able to cover the team, is that you can kind of formulate relationships to a certain degree. Obviously your job's to analyze, but I've talked to some really good guys off the court. Danny Gafford is one of my favorites. Denny Avia was a good guy. Jordan Poole, you get that just early on talking to him. He's a young man, but he has a kind of an older mentality to him, and he's easy to like. You kind of take a liking to him early on and talking to him. So he's definitely a high character guy. And I think he's, like I said, he's a good locker room presence for these young guys. So, like I said, I agree 100%. Let's talk about Alex Sarr a little bit. Like I said, after 5 summer league games, man, people were ready to call this man a bust. And yes, we knew that coming out of the draft, his offensive game was going to be very, very raw, but he has improved every week. He's a better player. And kind of like, we're going to talk about Bilal, a guy who's progressing year 2. But, number one, how surprised are you to see, Alex Sarr improving so early? And go ahead.
That is surprising to me. I think he's, as young as he is and still in what I call his teenager body, and having to go up against some of those big, beefy, strong centers in there. He's still playing a finesse game out there, but he's perfecting his 3-point shot. I see he seems to be getting a little more confident going in the paint, trying to take on some of that bulk. We'll see by the time he's 23, 24, when he puts on maybe 30 pounds, a little more muscle. He's definitely got the skills, though, and it's nice to see him getting the minutes and utilizing those minutes, not being out there and just being a waste. He is definitely doing well out there.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you one thing that impressed me about Alex Sarr is his ability to be coachable. you see he improves. And in every area that you expect him to improve, he improves. Coming out of the draft, like I said, very raw offensively, defensively. We knew that being a rim protector was probably the first part of his game that we're going to notice. But looking at his offensive game, you start out as a guy who, the Australian League didn't really prepare him for the NBA because he kind of let him bring the ball up and do whatever he wanted. And then 7'1", I kind of expect him to be more of a well-rounded center. We know, he's a pretty guy who can stretch the floor, shoot the three-point shot, shoot the mid-range, but I expect him, especially as time goes on, to become more of a well-rounded center. But like you said, he's starting to play in the paint more. Starting to play with his back to the basket, be more active in rebounding, and have more of a presence of holding down the paint. So I think that the sky's the limit for him. Him and Bilal, Bob Carrington. I mean, we have a really nice young core here in DC. And like I said, I think the sky's the limit, especially when you look at how much talent is in the next draft. I think we're going to be a better team by the time we get to the 2026 draft. I think we're not going to be in a position to get the Bonsa or Cam Boozer. I think 2025, if we can grab a guy like Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, and add it to this young core.
Any of those three. That's what we're after, right? That's what all these losses are about, right? We're getting one of those three. The other thing about Sarr that I really like, with his maturity and how grounded he is. His family's there at every game. His mother, his father, his brother Oliver, who was a former NBA G Leaguer. They're there every game supporting him. And you can see, that's a big part of who he is. And in the hat that he designed, he put the initials on the back. It talks about the character. And that's a big part of it for me with these players that come through DC. Not only how talented they are on the court, but who they are as human beings and what they give back to the community. So I think Sarr is going to be somebody that, DC can be really proud of here, as he develops over the next couple of years. But he is certainly further along than I thought. I thought we would see a lot less of him on the court and more of JV, Valanciunas out there, taking the load. But that hasn't been the case, which is great to see.
Oh, absolutely. Will Dawkins said himself that when he looks at players, he looks at not only from a talent standpoint what they can be, but character is a big part of the process. Bringing in high character guys that are easily coachable, guys that want to get better, guys that want to learn. And you see that with all these rookies, man. And you see it with second-year player Bilal Coulibaly. So we're going to talk about Bilal, and we're going to talk about head coach Brian Keefe, two important pieces of the developmental process here in DC. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Are you tired of the endless waiting, wondering, and worrying about your taxes? Well, now that's a thing of the past. You see, taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. TurboTax is here to change the game by matching you with a TurboTax expert who can get the work on your return right away. No more waiting for answers. No more wondering if you're missing out on deductions. Whether you got one form or 20 forms, TurboTax experts give you the taxes their undivided attention. While you get real-time updates on your progress, you can focus on what really matters. You won't have to lift a finger, but you'll get a peace of mind knowing your taxes are being handled by the professionals. So again, guys, I definitely recommend TurboTax. I do it every year. You definitely, if you want to get the best return, definitely recommend TurboTax. It's only available and ready for stress-free taxes and most money back guaranteed. Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert who's ready to take your taxes off your plate so you can focus on your day. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service, real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, let's get back into it. So, we already mentioned, Be Cool, aka Bilal Coulibaly. Unreal. There you go. And then what this, believe it or not, this was actually the platform where Be Cool was developed. Shout out to my guy No Breaks New, who came up with the nickname. But like I said, he's embraced it. I feel like everybody's embraced it, and it's a really, really good. I'm digging the hat, man. I love it. I love it.
This is his designed hat, and I love that he put that name right there on there. That is awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, talk about character. Bilal Coulibaly, another character guy, a guy who's easily likable guy. Family oriented guy. A guy who definitely has not forgotten where he's come from, but he's definitely looking towards the future, getting better, working on this game. Be Cool. The fact that he's breaking out in year 2. I mean, is that a testament not only to his work ethic, but is that also a testament to Brian Keefe and his resume as a development head coach?
I think a little bit of both, but in this case, I got to give a lot of credit to Be Cool, because he is embracing the defensive assignments and wanting to take on others' teams, big stars, and wanting and showing that he can lock them down. And, the respect he's getting from these guys after the games in the interviews where they're like, I had a tough game against him. That to me is the kind of player we need around here because, it seems like defense has been something we've been lacking over the years of people who really want to put that first. Yeah. So with Be Cool taking that role on for us, that's going to be something of value here in the next couple of years as we keep growing and getting more wins.
Absolutely. I think that Bilal Coulibaly is a star in making. I mean, he's just early on, you saw the defense. I mean, all defensive team defense, in my opinion. He's a guy who's definitely going to be one of the better defenders in the NBA for years to come. But for his offense to shine, really progress in year 2. Now, obviously, he still has work to do, but you saw clearly he worked on it in the offseason. Improved ball handling, a mid-range game. He had the ability to attack the basket, but now he's attacking through contact. He's a much more polished player, really, in year 2. And I think, again, yes, you can look at head coach Brian Keefe because his resume as a developmental head coach is long and extensive, and it speaks for itself. But Be Cool put the time in. And for a second-year player, I think this is a lot about him being a future leader because, you want to see that type of work from a guy who is part of your foundation going forward for when you hope to host that next championship trophy. And I think he's definitely a guy who, again, defensively, he's a monster. He's a dog, but offensively.
And second-year player, but only 20 years old. I mean, that's the thing. These guys are so young, and they, again, I'll say it again, haven't grown into their man bodies yet, and they will. He's going to get only bigger and stronger, which is just going to keep helping him. But the skills are there. I think he's gone through a little bit of a slump recently on the offensive side. He came out like gangbusters at the beginning of the year, November and October, November, he was playing on fire on offense. But I think that's going to come back. Again, I think it's hard to play two-way and give so much on the defensive end and then to be expected to be the man on the offensive end. Yeah. And certainly I think he benefits when Kuzma's out there doing well and when Poole is out there doing well. We've seen, in the one game where Poole wasn't in and at the end of the game where they went for the ISO play for, against the Knicks, where we ended up going to overtime instead of winning in regulation. That's where one play I would have loved to seen him succeed on that play. But, those are the learning and teaching moments. And we all know we learn more from our failures than we do our successes. So I think that was another opportunity for him to say, okay, I want to do that again. And I know what to do. We with him, number 6 pick, I think it was number 6 pick overall. We moved up to get him number 7 pick. Hey, Winger and Dawkins, they seem to know what they're doing with these picks. And you can't deny that they are accumulating a lot of picks, and the picks that they are using are contributing.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big supporter of this front office. I mean, they've already shown that they can find talent in the draft. I mean, obviously, Alex Sarr, number 2, Bilal, making that move, trading him for Jarris Walker from the Indiana Pacers on draft night, the previous draft. But the fact that you're able to grab Bub at 14 and Keyshawn George at 24, I mean, their ability to find talent in the later stage of the first round is something we haven't seen in a long time in DC. And Tristan Vucevic, while we still want to see what he can provide long term, I mean, he's oozing with potential, and we got him in the second round. I mean, I can't remember the last time we had a second round pick show up and play, and he's, a lot of potential with Tristan Vucevic. So, like I said, when it comes to the draft, this front office has shown that they are a good front office.
That's what they want to do, and the downside of these years for me is how much salary and veterans we're churning through and just burning because, again, Gallinari and Muscala and Livers and Cooks and Rollins and all those salaries we ate last year. And then now Brogdon and Holmes and Bailey. I mean, Brogdon, Holmes, and Bailey, that's $45 million worth of salary that's just sitting on the bench. But I get it. It's not about the short term. And certainly, in the old regime, if you'd have had those people on, the old regime would have been getting killed for all those veterans. But the new regime gets a pass on all that because everyone's got their eye on the prize on the future. and no one's complaining too much about the losses because everyone wants those number one draft picks nice and low. So so far plan's going well. Dawkins is another one. He's at almost every game. He's very visible. He interacts with the fans. He wears impeccable tailored suits, by the way. Really nice guy, though, and somebody that you want to root for, and you want him to succeed for our city.
Oh, yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, Will Dog is a guy I've had many interactions with, and again, easy, likable guy. I mean, he knows basketball, and he has a blueprint for what he's trying to do with his organization. He has a plan, and both him and Michael Winger said early on in the process, they're not going to cut corners. They're going to do it the right way. It's going to be a long process, but they're going to do it right. They prioritize scouting and development, which are two areas that haven't always been a priority here in the nation's gap with the Wizards. And now you see both departments are priority. The revamped scouting department, and you got a coaching staff that they are one of the best in the business when it comes to developing high-end talent. I mean, Brian Keefe, come on now. I mean, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, I mean, James Harden, Brandon Ingram, Kristaps Porzingis. Those are just a small sliver of names that attribute their success to developing under head coach Brian Keefe. So,
and like you said, player development. You got Travis Schreck over there. He's again, we see him in the games. He's very visible. He's part of this organization, and I think he's a big part of who they're bringing in as well. And you got to love how they are going about this, and Ted too, because again, it's all coming out of Ted's wallet. He's the one who's signing off on these $12 million salaries that are sitting down at the end of the bench, and so he's in for a dime, in for a dollar on all this, and ready to be patient and see it through.
Absolutely. So we're about to talk about the arena deal, and I'm gonna get your take on the arena deal. And again, we're gonna talk about Brian Keefe and how important is he in this process of developing young talent. So we're gonna get into that. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you're paying for twice? That definitely happened to me a few times. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million and canceled subscriptions. Good Lord. Saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. And for me, it took a long time to really figure out how to use my money and get my most value out of my money. I used to spend money like water. So apps like this definitely help me keep track of my finances and help me be more responsible with my money. So do yourself a favor, guys. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, before we get out of here, man, I'm gonna try to get your take on the arena deal. But before we do, Brian Keefe, we kind of mentioned it before. Brian Keefe, how important is he in this overall process?
He's absolutely probably the right guy at the right time. Now, I feel for him because he's going to have to put up for a lot of losses this year and next year. And usually coaches that are in these situations don't survive that many losses. So, where he'll be 3 years from now is going to be a tough place maybe for him. But he's certainly giving the rookies the minutes. The one thing I like is his on-court decisions. If players make a mistake, whether they're the rookies or the veterans, he yanks them. And you see it right away. He's like, boom, you're to the bench. I want you to think about what you just did there. So I like his game time decisions that, people, you're going to get your time out there. But if you make a mistake, you're going to think about it. You're not going to just stay out there and play through it. So from that standpoint, I think he really is the right man for the right time, especially with his, like you mentioned, his experience with OKC and with Winger and Dawkins and some of these other players, superstars in the NBA that he's been around. So he's got the right temperament for what we're going through right now.
Oh, I agree. definitely the right person for the job. I was a big proponent for him getting the job. I mean, because last year when he was interim head coach, I noticed little things with Brian Keefe. The players really bought into what he was trying to do. They really responded to his coaching, and he's establishing a culture here, which is play hard, play to win. These guys play hard, they play to win. Now, early in the year, they kind of up and down. A lot of that had to do with injuries, kind of inconsistent rotations, which again, the inconsistent rotations go to a lot of injuries. We've dealt with a lot of injuries, and now, there's an illness going through the team right now. So, hopefully everything gets better. But like I said, there's a big virus going around in the area. So, but he's the right person for the job. I think that his resume speaks for itself. And the fact that, again, like you said, he established a culture and he holds them to a standard. He doesn't mess around. I mean, he definitely holds them to a standard, and that you need structure in a young team. I was a young man once, and I needed structure. Believe me, I needed structure.
19 years old. These guys were in high school 2 years ago, some of them. Yeah. And here they are now starting in the NBA. And he's got to deal with egos and deal with all of that, while he also knows that he is undermanned in almost every single game that he's going into, and still trying to get them up. We've had way too many games where we've been down by 20, and that's just going to be a fact. But yet he still manages to try and keep them in it, keep them, the garbage minutes meaningful for them. And that's the role that he's going to have to play in these deconstruction years. Kudos to him for how he's navigating through this.
Yeah, I mean, they say it's all about the journey, man. We're definitely in the thick of the journey, And like I said, I feel for him too, because he's a good coach, and I don't think that the 6-29 record is indicative of his coaching style. I think that, again, he inherited a roster where you have young guys that you have to develop, and you have to see some progression with them, and you have to give them those minutes. And then you have guys, like Jordan Poole, Kuzma, the number 1 and number 2 scoring options, where you have to give them the piece of the pie. And then you have guys that you have to kind of highlight and see if you can move them in the trade market. So, Jonas Valanciunas has been very productive here. Malcolm Brogdon, even though, Malcolm Brogdon has been dealing with injuries, but very productive when he's on the court. And so before we move on to the arena, man, Kyle Kuzma, a guy whose name's been synonymous with the trade market. I mean, when it's all said and done, what is his legacy in DC?
Well, I think, again, Kuzma was here through transition, kind of the end of the Shepherd and the Beal years, off of the Westbrook trade. I think he served a purpose in those years, and I think he's going to serve another purpose here. That's why they gave him the declining contract. It's going to be more valuable to get him to a team that he wants to play for and that he can do something with, maybe in the playoffs, because that he knew when he re-signed with us that was not in the cards. Yeah. For the most part, I think he's kept his head up. He's said most of the right things. I think it's kind of clear he wants out of here. Yeah. And I think, I think we're at a point where they've lowered what they're asking for him. So, I'll be really surprised if he's here come March. But, I wish him nothing but the best. I think he's been a stand-up player for us here. A lot of people get on him for hero ball or ball hogging, but he's trying to make a name for himself, and it's a business and a branding out there as well. And he's trying to show other teams that he can help them as well as help us. So I don't fault him for any of that. As long as he keeps is not locker room cancer and is still one of the guys, and which he seems to be. I watch him interact with everybody on the bench, and it seems to still be a really tight-knit bunch, even with him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, when it comes to Kyle Kuzma, I enjoyed him being in D.C. Like I said, coming over from L.A., one of the biggest fan of him in L.A., obviously him and Lonzo, doing their thing on social media. But he became a complete player here in D.C. He really did. I felt like he was a very productive player here in D.C. And he did fit this team at one time. When it was him, Bradley Beal, and Kristaps Porzingis, they were a nice foundation to build upon, even though they were kind of, a lot of people felt building from the middle, didn't, a lot of people didn't agree with, aiming for the A seed, but it is what it is. On that point, that ship has sailed. But I just feel like it's time. I think he's been productive here, and a guy who hasn't been in trouble, no legal issues, hasn't never had that, locker room cancer aura above him. He's a guy who's been productive, and he has been a leader here in DC. But I just feel like it's time. But I
Yeah,
think
no,
Bilal,
I think
yeah,
so for everyone, and
yeah,
I hope that it's a good trade for him at the right time, and that it ends on a happy ending for everybody involved. That's the way you like to see it in the
oh,
business of the NBA.
absolutely, it's a business, absolutely. So, hopefully, there's certain guys that, obviously, I'm here for the guys that have Washington on the front, but there's still guys that I still follow when they go. I'm still
Oh
seeing what
yeah,
Denny's doing over there. I'm still rooting for
everyone.
Gaff. Yeah, so I would definitely want to see Kuz get into a situation where he can get another ring. Like I said,
I mean,
he,
you figure Kuz, Kispert, Davis, and Gill are the only ones left from the
yeah,
Shep area.
yeah,
And three of those, Kuzma, Kispert, and Gill, have all been re-signed by this front office.
yeah,
So, Davis is the only one on the old contract from Shep. And we all know, that he probably is not long for DC. That hasn't worked out too well for anybody. But there's part of the deconstruction and the roster turnover, and basically in a year and a half since the
yeah.
new front office has come in.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. So let's talk about the arena deal. I mean, obviously Capital One is going to get new duds within the course of the next 3 to 5. How important is the new arena deal, not only for the organization and the tenants, such as, the Capitals, but how important is it for Washington, D.C. proper?
I think it's a cornerstone of Chinatown. I mean, for those of us that remember what Chinatown looked like in 1995 before the arena opened up, and how MCI at the time, that's what it was called when it first opened up in 97, how that just changed everything. Well, here we are now almost 30 years later. The arena is not new anymore. They did do some upgrades in the bowl, and new seats, whatnot, and new, digital lighting and scoreboards and things. But the facilities themselves are old, and most of the restaurants and retail around there, it's kind of old and outdated. So I think, putting a new facade on the front of it, and invigorating those spaces, and bringing in, where District E and the Regal theaters were, is now going to get brought into the arena to make it a little bigger and a little more excitement and a little more entertaining, and restaurants in the arena. I think that is going to be great for the fans, and just great for the city too, because it's just going to keep, like everything, you got to change. You can't just rest on your laurels, So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the way they transferred it from Monumental Sports to where the district now owns the building. We'll see where that goes. Hopefully that won't lead to where now Ted can take his teams and leave because he doesn't own the building anymore.
Yeah.
Where some people say that, but I think Ted understands that the Capitals and the Wizards really need to be downtown to be successful and draw from Maryland and Virginia in. If you move them somewhere to either side, it's going to disrupt that dynamic.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think that DC teams need to be in DC, and I'm a Virginia guy. Was that proposed move to Virginia, and yes, it would have kind of knock a few 20 minutes off my drive, but still, I mean, I'd still believe that DC teams need to be in DC.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to the I still call them the Redskins, to the Redskins moving back down to where RFK is as well.
Oh, absolutely. That I think there's been a lot of good decisions being made at the government level in DC, not only, again, with Capital One Arena, but bringing the, I can't say the word, but, bringing
the Commanders.
bringing the Commanders over, to RFK. I think it would be a really good move for this fan base, because I'm a Commanders fan. Like I said, I still use, I can't say it, but I still use the same word, man. But exciting time. And like I said, let's talk about football real quick before we move on, man. How refreshing is it to see 12 wins with that team, man?
Hey, I went to 2 Super Bowls. I went to the Doug Williams Super Bowl, and I went to the Mark Rippon Super Bowl. I've been a Skins fan since 1972 when they went, against the Dolphins. So to see after that 30 year of the Schneider era, and just how bad we were, to get back over 10 wins for the first time, and actually 12, but to have a quarterback like Daniels, Jaden Daniels, who is, again, I was a non-believer, and I was a non-believer through halfway the season. But the more you watch this kid, he is a player, man. He makes wise decisions. He knows what to do. We got lightning in a bottle, and we got somebody there. He's going to have a nice, long, good career for us.
Oh, absolutely. And if you look at how much has been done in 2 years under Josh Harris, this tells you how bad it's been the last 20 years. I mean, in 2 years, you're looking at probably a stadium deal. You're looking at a 12-win team. You're looking at franchise quarterback. You're looking at a new coaching staff, a new general manager. I mean, Adam Peters looks like he's going to rebuild this team. And Dan Quinn is going to get, a coach that really holds a standard. So we're heading in the right direction here in DC sports. I know the Wizards, long road. The Nationals, a lot of people were expecting the Nats to spend a little bit of money, but I think it's going to be next year. But a lot of these prospects coming up with James Wood. I guess before we'll talk about a little Nats before we call it night, man. I mean, looking at the Nats, we got James Wood up. We got Dylan Cruz up. CJ Abrams. How excited about you with the Nats and with the direction they're taking?
The Nats, they got a ways to go because, again, the Phillies and they're in their division. Some of those teams are pretty strong, but it is exciting to see them come back a little bit more because it did seem after they hit the World Series and the older learner, Ted, passed away, and the younger learner, Mark, took over. It just didn't seem like they really cared about the winning. It became more of a business and a money thing, and it just seemed like it was going in the wrong direction. But they're getting some good prospects in here, and I think that's the key in baseball right now is don't get those way bloated contracts that are going to be injured and not produce for you. So we'll see about the Nats. But the Caps. Caps are hitting it again. They're the third best team in the NHL, and all props to Ovi. That guy is the fountain of youth, man. I can't believe he keeps scoring the way he does.
Hey, look, the sports world's looking a lot better in the 202, man. So the light definitely at the end of the tunnel for Washington sports. So again, you can catch my guy Stephen Powers at each and every Wizards game, man. Definitely, he's been a Wizards fan, Bulls fan longer than probably most of us spent lives. So definitely loyal to the franchise, man. And so real quick, where can people catch you?
You can. I got two sites: dcstones.org or boundarystones.org. You can learn all about the Boundary Stones. And of course, if you're at a Wizards game, section 103, come on down. Let me know you're there. You can find me on Twitter, dcstones1978. Let me know you're there. I'll come up. I'll get you a beer and talk to you. I love meeting the fans. Really do love talking with them.
Yes, sir. So, like I said, I look forward to seeing you up there next time I'm up there, man. So definitely appreciate you coming on the show like always, man.
Thanks for the time, and I love breaking it up with you and talking some Wizards, man. You're a great fan, and it's always good to see you. When I ran into you in Camden, that was like, whoa. And I'm an O's fan from a long time as well. I went back with Brooks and Paul Blair in the 70s, so I love the O's.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So again, appreciate you coming on. All right, everybody, we will catch you guys next time. Hail to the Wizards and peace. Everybody have a good night.